Okay, hi again to a new video on plans and elevations. So the sorts of questions you may get asked in a GCSE question may picture a shape like the ones on the left hand side where we have to put a plan or elevation in. And the three that you may come across is the plan view, which is like a bird's eye view, so coming down from the top. Okay, so this would be looking down, okay, from the top view. So that would be your plan view. Okay, your front elevation would be something more along the lines of the arrow that they give you. Now normally on a GCSE question they would list down which the front view is. So we're going to say that in all of these cases the arrow that they give us is going to be the front view, and then the side view is going to be from this side on the left hand side here, looking across to the right. Okay, so we're going to use that particular format. Now like I say, on most questions it would give you a real detailed version of which side is which, so which is the front and which is the side elevation, because it will alter what you're actually drawing down. So the first step to do is to look at the question, and what I would do is I would say, looking down from the top, what can I actually see? I can see the top of that square, I can see the top of that square, the top of that one, and the top of that one. So on my elevation I can actually see 4 squares. If I look in this top corner I can see 3 that go across and then 2 down. So picking a square, I can see that square, that's my corner square, and I've got 1 underneath it, being that one, and then I've got 2 next to my first square that I drew. Okay, so my plan elevation is going to be something that looks like that: 3 squares across and 2 squares down. Now the key thing about the plan is that you can do that in any rotation, any orientation. Okay, so you will get away with drawing that one like that. If you did it the other way around, so you rotated it so it was that sort of shape, then you would also be allowed that as an outcome. Okay, so even if you did a planned elevation like that, where we've got it rotated round, they would give you the marks for that one. Okay, so let's move on to the front elevation. Now if I'm looking from this side, all I would be able to see would be 1 square there, 1 square there, and 2 squares above it. Now again, looking at this one, the only thing I would be able to see is those 4 squares. So looking at those 4 squares, I would have to say that do this one in the right orientation. It can only be one way round. So if I do this bottom square first, so I'm going to do a bottom square there, okay, and that's going to be that square. I'm going to have 2 more above it that I can see. Okay, and looking from this point here, I've got 1 more I can see, which is on the left hand side of that square on the bottom row. And again, that's what I would be able to see. So very similar to the plan view, okay, but this has to be with the 2 squares on the bottom. If I did it a different orientation, I wouldn't get the marks for it. And looking at this one, I can see I've got 1 square there, 1 square there, 1 square there, so I can see I've got 3 high, and then if I count these 2 as well, I've got 3 wide. So let's do that bottom square. So that square is this one here, and then I've got 2 more above it, and this time I've got 2 more next to it as well, going out to the, if you like, on the ground floor. Okay, so I'd be able to draw the side elevation just like that. Okay. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Okay. Now, again, I'm just going to start off with the 3 different elevations. So I've got my plan elevation from the top, and I can see those squares there. So I've got 1, 2, 3. I can see 4 squares, and we can see it's going to make a like an elongated L shape. So I've got 1, 2, 3, and 1 just below it. Okay. So that will give me that shape. If I'm looking at the front elevation, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4 squares, and again I've got my bottom square this side. I've got 1 above it, and then I've got 2 going along. Okay, so I'll be able to again see my L shape. So looking across there, you can see this bottom row, I don't have one sitting down here, so that's along on the top row, that's on the same height, those 3. Okay, and then looking at the side elevation, let's go for the green one. We've got 1, 2 on top of each other, and I'd be able to see this face here as well. So my side elevation would be 2 sideways, and then 2 across the top row as well. So again, that's what I would see as my side elevation. Okay, if you want to have a go at the questions 3 and 4, pause the video and see how you get on. Okay, let's see how you did. So I'm going to do the plan first, and if you get a system that works for you, I can see that 1, 2, 3 and 4. I can see 4 squares. Now if I start with the middle 2 on this one, I can see that one is this square here, and I've got 1 just below it, so you can see the orientation I'm going is that's going to be my top square. I've got 1 to the right of that square, and I've got 1 to the left of the bottom square as well. Now there may be one in this back corner, but I can't physically see it, so I'm not going to draw that one in. Okay, it may be a hidden square, but that's what I'm going to be able to see from the top. I can see 2 and 2, so it looks a bit like a Tetris block, this one. So let's look at the front elevation. Again, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares this time. So I've got a row of 3 and a row of 2. So start with my bottom corner. That's going to give me 3 high, and then I've got 1 to the left on the base, and I go 1 story on that one. So again, on this one, there's my 5 squares. Okay, and front face 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 5 squares I can see. So I've got a row of 3 in the middle and 1 each side on the base. So let's do my row of 3. Okay, and then I'm going to do 1 across the bottom of each. Okay, so again I'm going to do like an inverted T or an upside down T shape on this one. Okay, and that would be my side elevation. And number 4, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares. Now again, I'm going to do that so that this is my top square. So there's my top square, and I've got 3 in a row coming down. 1, 2, 3, and then from the middle square they go to the left. So again, I've got similar to a T shape, but this one is going to be orientated on its side. Like I say, if you did have that one the other way up, so it was like a T the right way up, or an upside down T, you would actually get away with that on the plan elevation, because it depends on where you're looking from the top. You could be, that could be your bottom square, that could be your bottom square. So again, you would get away with that one. On the front elevation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and again you can see I've got like an R shape on that one. So this is my bottom square. I go 3 squares high, and it's the top row that goes across another 2 squares. So on this one, okay, I'll end up with something similar to that on the R shape. Okay, and the side elevation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can see 6 squares. So if I start with the 2 at the bottom, there's my 2 squares at the bottom. Okay, now the left of those 2 squares, I've got a tower of 3. So 1, 2, 3, and then the top 2 squares goes to the left as well. And you can see I've got my tower of 3 in the middle, 1 on the right, and then 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares. So that's drawing plans and elevations from shapes that they give you. Now, the other thing you may come across is when they actually give you the plans and elevations and you need to draw the shape itself. Okay, so again, it's difficult to try and picture on the grid what we're actually looking at. So again, you need to have some sort of way of designing this. Now, if you think about, if we took number 4 here and we were to just draw, just going to go in black on this one, going to draw around this shape. Okay, you can see I've got like my L shape that I've got here. So let's try and mirror that shape. So we're going to go across 1 square, that's going to be that line. I'm going to come back 2, so 1, 2. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 diagonally, 1, 2, 3, up 1, and then I'm going to make that into that L shape. So that square that we've just drawn there would be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's my orientation sorted for my plan. Okay, now I'm going to ignore the one that's above it and just solely look at this. Now remember, this was my plan elevation, this was my front, and this was my side. Okay, so for me on this one, what I would potentially do is I would think, well, looking at that plan, you can see the side elevation, I've got 2 squares on the bottom. So I haven't got 2 squares on the top like I've got here. So let's try and draw the side elevation on. So we've got 1, 2, 3 squares high. So 1, 2, 3 squares. Okay, and it goes across 2 squares at the bottom. Okay, so that's what I've got from my side elevation. Okay, and we can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this one at the top here though, if you remember, we've got that square and I can see that from the top. Okay, but I haven't got this one at the top. The side elevation says I don't have anything at the top here, so I would need to rub out that part there. Okay, so now I've still got my plan elevation. I can see that's on a different level. Okay, but my side elevation is fine. Now I just need to put my front elevation in. So we've got this square here is going to be this bottom square. Okay, this square here is going to be right next to it. Okay, then I'm going up 2 squares and then I'm going across 1 square. Okay, now if we can shade in what we've actually got as my front elevation, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so let's try and shade this in on the shape we're going to draw. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's the shape that I've got on my front elevation. And again, you can see from the plan, these ones here are not there on my front elevation. Okay, I've only got these ones. So this front row doesn't exist on my elevation. So So I can now rub all of those ones out, okay, and then try and draw them back in. So now we can see the front elevation there. That matches that shape there, so I'm happy with that. Let's look at the side elevation. Okay, so let's do this one back in green. So my side elevation is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm happy with that. I now go back to my plan elevation. I should be able to see 4 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's the shape I'm looking for that cube. So as a rule of thumb, you can start with the plan elevation, but you're going to have to be rubbing some of that out because we don't know which level that plan elevation is on. Okay, we can see it. Okay, so just the front elevation this time. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's go across 2. This one goes up. Okay, then I'm going to go up another 2. This goes up. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3 high, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I need 1 on this top corner. So let's draw my front elevation in first. Okay, so we've done that one. Now let's go to the side elevation. Okay, and let's draw, well, we know it's this bottom square here. Okay, and let's draw 1 across towards that. Okay, and we're going to go up 3, so 1, oops, 1, 2, 3. Now again, you can see this is where it's going to start to go a little bit awry, because from the plan, what do I see? I can see this bottom square, okay, and I can see this one here, and I know there's going to be 2 on the top. So we know with the plan these 2 exist. Okay, we know those 2 are there because that's on the top of these 2. So we're coming off there like that. Okay. We know this bottom one exists, but there is nothing here, so we know that's got to come down to the corner. Okay, so I can see this square here, I can see this square here, this square here, and I can see this square at the bottom here. Okay, so again, we've got a couple of lines we need to get rid of, and that's the shape I've got. So take care when you're doing ones where they give you the actual elevations and you have to then draw the shape. I hope that was useful, and I'll catch you again next time.